Herman Cain succumbs to COVID, and Trump might want to delay the elections? How are they related? Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, in the continuing nightmare that is 2020, we woke to the news that Mr. Herman Cain, who I'm pretty sure in 2012 was a viable candidate for the Republican side for President of the United States, has succumbed to coronavirus and has died. Now, the strange thing about the world that we currently live in that's different from the world that anybody else in human history has lived in is that we have a real-time chronicling of the events of a person. And sometimes it tells a story. You can actually tell a story, dear listener, through Twitter. Here's Herman Cain, right before the big Tulsa rally that Trump was holding, about June 20th, I think. Masks will not be mandatory for the event, which will be attended by President Trump. All caps. People are fed up! Exclamation point. And then we actually have another Twitter tweet from Mr. Cain, and it's just a few of the hashtag Black Voices for Trump at tonight's rally, having a fantastic time. You'll see Brother Cain there, close to being in the middle, and you see all those human beings around him, none of which are wearing masks, by the way. He's having a fantastic time, he says. Hashtag Tulsa Rally 2020, hashtag Trump Tulsa, hashtag MAGA, hashtag Trump 2020 landslide. Oh, there's going to be a landslide, is there, in 2020, Mr. Cain? More on that in a moment. But, again, he's saying he's having a fantastic time. And unfortunately for Brother Cain, that was the last time he would ever have a fantastic time, because 2 weeks after the event, here you can see on Twitter, we're sorry to announce that Herman Cain has tested positive for COVID-19 and is currently receiving treatment in an Atlanta area hospital. And of course, here's the last one. Here's the most recent tweet that I have so far. You're never ready for the kind of news we're grappling with this morning, but we have no choice but to seek and find God's strength and comfort to deal. And then underneath it says, we're heartbroken, the world is poorer. And then it says, Herman Cain has gone to be with the Lord. Inshallah. So this whole situation, and I gotta say, it's almost exclusively on the right. This dismissal of a national, global pandemic that is killing everyone. Now, I just, if those of you who know me from the other channel, you guys know that I found out about the death of somebody I loved very dearly, 25 years old, Lee Ben. You know, I've been conversating with my friends and things of that nature that knew him, and it's crazy because the last text he sent one of my other friends was a screenshot of him testing positive for COVID, and the next day he was literally dead. So Lee Ben is somebody that's on the lower end of the spectrum as far as America goes. He's an immigrant. He made less than $25,000 a year. Just not somebody that the whole world is talking about now, which is why I'm constantly bringing his name up, because he was here and he was important. But so is Mr. Cain. And I don't resent Mr. Cain for being a celebrity, and I don't resent him for being a millionaire. And I don't resent him for having an inordinate amount of power that he had in his life on this planet. And no doubt his family is under extreme duress and in serious pain at the moment. So this is not me spiking the football. This is me saying, when is this madness going to stop? When is this anti-intellectualism going to stop? When is this insane conspiracy mongering going to stop? You know, people talk about fear mongering. You know, there's also conspiracy mongering. When will it end? This man boldly and brazenly thumbed his nose at the idea that people should wear masks in these gatherings, and you can see in the progression this brother ended up losing his life. Now, what does that have to do with Trump? Well, here, and it's interesting because the thing that you, when you go to Herman Cain's Twitter, this is what's going to pop on the front page right now. My friend Herman Cain, a powerful voice of freedom and all that is good, passed away this morning. Herman had an incredible career and was adored by everyone that ever met him, especially me. He was a very special man, an American patriot, and a great friend. I just got off the phone with his amazing wife, Gloria, daughter, Melanie, and son, Vincent, not me, to express my deepest condolences to the entire family. Flotus, Melania, and I have loved Herman Cain, a great man. Herman, rest in peace. You know what's interesting about leadership? I was on a team with some of the most incredible human beings that that the United States have ever produced. And I'm not just saying that, I'm telling you, these were the most amazing, brilliant, professional, humble, world-changing, history book-altering individuals I ever had the pleasure and the honor of working with. And do you know what our number one mantra was? Find how you're wrong. You plan something out, something goes wrong, something doesn't end up right, or the situation doesn't accomplish the goal that you wanted it to accomplish, or especially if people lose their lives, instead of scrambling to make excuses or completely ignore it, find out where you specifically contributed to that failure. What was missing in Mr. Trump's tweet about Brother Herman Cain? Dear listener, if you were not familiar with the fact that COVID was a thing, you just think that this 74-year-old man just passed away in his sleep. There's no indication that this man died of COVID. There's also no indication from Mr. Trump that he's doing any sort of introspection whatsoever. That his silly, and he's the leader, his silly, braggadocious, anti-science mentality that was encouraged at the silly Tulsa rally, where Mr. Cain was surrounded by a whole bunch of other people, knowing full well that Mr. Cain was in the red zone because it's affecting the elderly at a disordinate rate. All of that is true, and not a single word of any introspection from Mr. Trump. He doesn't even mention COVID at all. Now, can any of us know for 1,000% certainty that Mr. Cain contracted COVID because he went to the Tulsa rally? No. But let me ask you a question, dear listener. If somebody said, I will give you $10 million, yay or nay, bet, when do you think he contracted COVID? And you only had 2 dates, and one of them was the Tulsa rally. Would you take that bet? I would. I'd put $10 million. I'd put all that money on the table and say he got it during that Tulsa rally, 100%. I would say that he was surrounded by a bunch of people who were 30 to 40 years younger than him. You see that nice lady back there in the red shirt and the brother behind him? And I would say that a whole bunch of people were asymptomatic. And I think he got it from them. But Mr. Trump mentions this is not even a thing. You know what else Trump tweeted today? Here's what Trump tweeted today. You can't make this stuff up. Look what Trump said. With universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can vote properly, securely, and safely vote. Did you see that? So now Mr. Trump is speculating on Twitter, thinking out loud on Twitter about delaying the election. Now look, I don't necessarily have an actual problem with that. You guys remember. Now look, focus now. Don't get upset because Trump is saying delay it and come up with all these crazy ideas that he's crazy or he's a fascist or whatever because he wants to delay the vote. You guys remember that I went ballistic on Mr. Biden because he was encouraging people to go vote. And people died in that situation as well. So we've been completely consistent on this channel about this COVID situation. So it is completely rational in my mind for Trump to say, hey, if November comes around and people are talking about in the fall that COVID is going to actually spike again, if November comes around and COVID is spiking, and people can't safely and securely and properly vote, emphasis for me, safely, should we delay the elections? I think that's a good idea. I think that's a great idea. But here's the thing that kills me about Trump. In June, because that's when the Tulsa rally was held, which is when the COVID was supposed to decrease in the summer months and then increase again in the fall, you were having these massive gatherings with people, Mr. Trump, and you were not mandating masks. And the folks that watch you and your constituency and your side has been constantly trivializing the importance of wearing masks and social distancing, right? So why all of a sudden are you saying that that maybe we should consider delaying the election for the cause of safety? I agree. Here's my problem. I think, Mr. Trump, you should get on TV and tell your constituency that they have mishandled the entire situation and trivialized this horrible pandemic, and that the blame rests squarely on you because they have been taking their cues from you as the leader. Now, here's the thing that gets me about Trump people, and I promise you, I'm not trying to other you. I'm not trying to, but here's the thing that kills me. Before COVID happened, the economy was doing well, and they wanted to attribute the entire thing to Trump. Now, people would call in and tell me, Vin, he's not completely responsible for the economy, yada, yada, yada. I don't care. He's the guy at the helm, and when he was at the helm, the economy was doing great. So you got to give him credit for that. But here's the credit thing is a double-edged sword, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you want to take credit for the great economy, then you have to take credit for the fact that people on the right, especially in this country, especially people that watch Fox News religiously, and especially people that religiously follow Trump, have almost to a man been completely lackadaisical and have completely underestimated the fatal consequences of not taking this thing seriously. And at some level, you have got to hold the man responsible. This is the thing that kills me, and I know what's going to happen in the comment section. People are going to go, I can't believe you're blaming Trump for COVID. I'm not blaming Trump for COVID. As a matter of fact, I'm in line with Trump's prevailing theory that he hasn't come out with explicitly yet about COVID. COVID is not Trump's fault, but the lackadaisical attitude, the misinformation, the disinformation, the not being a good example of wearing the masks in public, Mike Pence showing up to there's so many crazy situations. Both of these individuals showed up without masks and knew that their constituency were saying all types of false hoods and conspiracy theories. And just recently, Mr. Trump, the only time he agrees with a doctor is when the doctor is talking about the incubi and the succubi, sex with demons, reptilians, and belly buttons. There's no accountability whatsoever for the fact that Mr. Trump's attitude and the fact that he has not course corrected, knowing full well that his constituency is not taking this seriously, that's on him. And I don't know what the ratio of deaths are for or against. That's why I don't judge people, and God tells us not to judge. That's between Trump and God, who he will see. And it's the same thing with Mr. Cain. Now, I want to prepare you for something, because I've been seeing this already. A lot of people are saying Herman Cain didn't really die of COVID. Herman Cain had stage 4 cancer, and that is why he died. Don't let the media fool you. Here is the Washington Post. The title of this Washington, it's 17 October 2011. Please note the date. A Washington Post article that talks about Herman Cain beats the odds with cancer. And here's a specific quote from Mr. Cain. Now, Mr. Cain had been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer around 2005, 2006. And it was late stage, and he had been given a 30% chance of survival. But you know what? Bless God, he beat it. Listen to what he says. It's been more than 6 years since then, and guess what? I'm completely cancer-free. Cured. Cain wrote, "Why was I spared against those odds? God said, not yet. Did it have something to do with the Lord wanting me to survive so that I might help set this great nation of ours on its own path of recovery?" Now, the irony obviously cannot be lost here. This man survived stage 4 cancer. Do you know how he survived stage 4 cancer? He went to the doctors. And the doctor said, we're going to have to do chemo, we're going to have to cut this out, we're going to have to give you this. They gave him something where his colon or his liver like doubled in size or something like that. I mean, they threw the book at this cancer thing because he was in a desperate situation. And everything the doctors told him to do, he did. Because he took cancer seriously. And by God's grace, he was cured. And yes, I still say God's grace because the odds are still stacked against him. As a Christian, I believe that God heals in generally 2 ways. One, he'll just he'll put his hands on you and he'll heal you instantaneously. The other is he will give us, human beings, wisdom to reverse the effects of the curse. So the word for healer and doctor in the Old and New Testaments are the exact same word. There's a reason for that. So here we go. Now, I know many of you, and it's still going to end up in the comment section. You watch the comment section. They're going to say, he had stage 4 cancer and that's why he died. It had nothing to do with COVID. Nope. In 2011, which was close to a decade ago, he has said that he was completely cancer-free and that he had overcome it and that he was cured. So for all of you who want to float that around as the real reason that Herman Cain died, I'm just going to go ahead and head you off at the pass. No, he died because he went to the Tulsa rally. He contracted COVID. He was in the red zone due to his age, and a month later, approximately, they're burying brother now. And our president wouldn't even mention the way in which this brother passed away, and he will take no accountability whatsoever for his role in the death of his friend Herman Cain. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he does have a role in the death of Herman Cain. Now, I know you Trump people. I know what's going to happen. You're going to say, he's a grown man, yada, yada, yada. Sorry. Donald Trump has influence as the leader. You cannot give him credit for improving the economy and then completely let him off the hook when he does things that endangers the lives of people. This is a constant pattern with Trump and his supporters. Trump calls these people, you remember the migrant caravan with the 2018 midterms? He calls these people invaders, says there's Al-Qaeda in them, and then the crazy guy on Twitter says, I'm not going to stand by while invaders invade my country. He goes up and shoots up a synagogue, and the Trump people want to tell us that there's no culpability whatsoever. Trump then goes and tells the Iranians that if they retaliate for us killing Soleimani, that he's going to destroy their historical sites, and we're going to respond in ways that they have no idea about. And the Iranians are in complete and total fear, see something on the satellite, shoot down one of their own passenger planes, and then the Trump people tell us that Trump had no culpability for scaring the hell out of these Iranians. And now here we are. Trump made the decision to have a maskless Tulsa rally, and his good friend Herman Cain dies a month later, and you guys are not going to hold him accountable at all. You just want credit. You want to credit the man, but you don't want to hold him accountable. Look, There's folks speculating that he's planning on delaying the election, not because he's worried about anybody's safety, but because he's doing so horrifically bad in the polls. I'm certain that's part of the motive. I still think that it's a wise thing for Americans to consider, and if you're on the left and you're so silly that you can't focus and say, you know what, we need to consider that because Trump said it, you're just as bad. You're just as bad. Rest in peace to Herman Cain. Rest in peace to Liban. Rest in peace to the hundreds of thousands. I think we're up to 150K right now. Dead Americans and people all over the world who died needlessly. It didn't have to be this way. Love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.